All right, guys, welcome to another episode of Wisdom and Wealth. I'm sitting here with actually a close friend, a neighbor, is how we became close friends, Mike Zimmerman, who is technically on his LinkedIn general manager of Cummins Clean Fuel Tech, right? But like way more than that, like the relationship we have and the stories that we've gone through, like there is way more to that title or underneath that title than what is shown. And
yeah, I'm still trying to figure out what I'm going to do when I grow up.
yeah, and that's honestly that's the best part. And then I don't know how many people know. Well, the people close to you know, but like I was excited to bring you on because one obviously the respect that I have for you and the way you've led your family. And the way you guys walk, you and Megan, which is funny. That was like one of the first jokes. Is my wife's Megan, his wife's Megan, your wife's Megan, spelled exactly the same. So text threads were always like, "Who are we talking to right now?"
Yep.
But I loved your walk, and including when you fell on ice and dropped all the bean dip in your front driveway.
That was queso.
Queso, that's right. And we had to go lick it off like the next morning or something when it was all frozen.
Yeah, that was real nice of you. Appreciate that. I was getting texts from Cory for a week about that.
That's awesome.
Literally slipped down the driveway, I was wearing cowboy boots, which were slicker than 2 banana peels, carrying this crock pot full of queso, taking these little baby steps, walking down the driveway, and totally went head over heels.
Going over to Carl's house
In the ice,
which is the best because first time I met him, he said his name was Carl. He's Mexican, and I'm like, it's Carlos, right? And he's like, no, it's Carl. And then I met his mom, and she's like Carlos, and I'm like, I knew you were lying, but we got some good memories already. But I'd love to jump in and talk and get your story because obviously. There's somebody just looks at your profile and they don't see everything, right? But like you have an awesome story of like shoot, you were at fire department. You initially wanted to be a surgeon, right?
Yeah,
you had that, but
that was
like
many moons ago,
right? But like you incredibly good with small engine. And anybody who doesn't know, I always laugh because I'm like I'm not a handy guy. I tell my wife I'm
really?
a handsy guy.
You admit that?
Yeah. Well. I can do some small things just because I've seen you do a couple things, but even then I need help. But crazy handy and could fix everything under the moon. But what I love is like your story of going through all this progression, all this change in life, and all these things that have happened. But like you have really created an awesome life for yourself with your family, good boys. Right, 2 awesome sons, one at LSU right now,
yeah.
and it's really cool. But you've brought some ingenuity to the space that you're in right now, and I still remember one of the first times we were over at the house, we were grilling brats on the grill or something, and right, you're talking about like, man, got an order of 200 Peterbilt trucks, and we outfit the trucks. They come out naked, and we customize the trucks. But then you went and I'd like you can flesh this out a little bit more, but like you went and created a whole separate division in Momentum at Rush Trucking and the CNG natural gas where you custom outfitted systems to them.
Yep.
Right.
And now hard to believe, but next week is going to be 10 years.
At being at Rush.
Being at running Momentum, which is now Cummins. 10 years.
That's
hard
crazy.
To believe.
That's insane.
Yeah, right here in Roanoke, Texas.
Yeah. And then on top of it, like remember we're talking. These are all conversations in the driveway. Heck, but I think it was like it turned to profit year 3 or 4 when Cummins came to buy it, or was it 5?
Yeah, probably 5. When you're growing a small business like that, it's just difficult, especially a manufacturing business where you're growing it from nothing.
Yeah.
I mean, literally, there were 2 pickup trucks parked in the parking lot, and now I don't have enough parking lot space for everybody. So, it's been a crazy growth period. But you always hear different people say, 7 years, it takes 7 years to become profitable.
Yeah.
We were largely profitable in 6. And wow, what a feeling when you finally like break through the clouds on profitability. I mean, it's one of the best feelings in the entire world. Now, all of a sudden it's like, now you got to stay there.
Yeah.
So it's not just you cross through and then everything's on autopilot. You've got to make sure that it continues.
Well, go through that. What was the context? I'm like, have you been at Rush? I've met Rusty. He's crazy.
Yeah.
And we're headbutting each other at NASCAR on the infield, right?
Who won?
Well, he had about like 10 times. And of course, I can't say all the language, right? But but he's like, I headbutted that big dude, something like that. And
Yeah, that's what he said.
Yeah, something, but a little more colorful. And it's like coaches right now. But and I was talking back to him also. I'm like, that ain't nothing, right? But it was
you're
cool.
This much taller
I know.
than him.
He's like, headbutts me in the chin, basically.
Yeah.
But like, what the context, Rush to starting this division? Like, how did that even come about?
So if you back up way back, when I was in college, I became a mechanic and I worked at a dealership, literally turning wrenches on Jeeps. And that was kind of my background and interest at the time. I wasn't interested in school. I made the dean's list my first year, but it unfortunately was the wrong dean's list. And I kind of went a little bit, back to what I was interested in. Thank God I have 2 parents who are really supportive, and both doctors, by the way. So wasn't always met with the best reaction, but they supported me, and my interest level of just everything mechanical. Like I say, I'm still trying to figure out what I'm going to do when I grow up because I'm interested in so much stuff.
Yeah.
But then I worked as a volunteer fireman, which was kind of grew my interest in big trucks. Then I worked at the university when I went back to school at Texas State, Southwest Texas at the time.
Yeah, I remember that.
Worked on school buses at the university, and I was juggling like 3 jobs. I actually started my own business with a couple partners. So I was an entrepreneur and had a girlfriend who later became my wife. I don't know how I did it all when I look back on it. She says it was early training for her.
It wasn't.
Yeah, because now I'm just traveling everywhere, and trying to keep the company going.
Yeah.
But I went to lunch one day with one of the guys who sold us parts at Rush. His name was Jimmy, super nice guy. And he said, "Man, aren't you going to graduate soon?" And I said, "Well, yeah, as a matter of fact, I'm graduating in December." This was like in September. Not a thought in the world about what I'm going to do career-wise. And he gives me a business card. He goes, "You need to call this lady because I'm telling you, you'd be perfect to come work at Rush." And this was in 2003. And so I interviewed and literally been at the same company for all this time. It's a great success story because you don't see that a lot in business. I mean, we were just talking before this about interviewing employees and candidates and finding the right people. You and I are both aligned where we're not all about hiring a warm butt for the seat.
Done that before.
Yeah, I mean, we've all been burned by it, right?
Yeah.
You don't know somebody's work ethic until you can challenge them.
Right.
And, I just happen to fit into the company. The company culture is incredible. And I love what I do because it's given me the opportunity. I'm not a sit behind the desk 24/7 kind of guy.
Yeah.
I couldn't work in a cubicle. You're the same.
Yeah.
Definitely.
We're just talking about, I'm giving my office to Mackenzie, our ops director. I'm like, I don't want it.
Yeah. You get the big office.
Yeah.
But, it's been great because it's the kind of company where if you have an idea, you want to grow the business, they'll listen to you. Sometimes that's good. Sometimes that's bad. But Momentum, the CNG manufacturing business that I've started, came about of just conversations with a couple partners and a CEO, Rusty, and gave me enough rope to hang myself with.
Really?
And now it's gone from literally like me and a couple other key employees who I still have to now close to 150 people I mean, it's an incredible success story, and we're in growth mode.
That's crazy.
This current market that we're in is crazy. Every day you wake up to a new adventure, and the tariff conversation comes up. I mean, I was just on a call literally before I walked in here talking about tariffs, and everybody's fearful, but we're investing in the business. We're going to stick with it and ride this through, and I think we'll be fine on the other end. But being in the truck business, heavy duty truck business, there's so many different business segments that you can be in.
Yeah.
Oil field, for example. We're in Texas.
Yeah.
We do a lot with the oil field, and it has extreme highs and extreme lows. And you just got to take the good with the bad and make the most out of it when it's high so you can kind of weather the storm. But our core at Momentum has been garbage. Refuse industry that's our foundational business. I think every business you've got to have whatever makes up just your brick and mortar foundational business. You get good at that, and the other stuff's icing on the cake when it comes along. And Rush has been a big proponent of that refuse vocational business. All the big heavy duty trucks that pour concrete and take out people's garbage. That's business that typically it can be a little cyclical, but it's always going to be there.
Yeah, it's always there.
Yeah, so we've really focused on it.
Talk about that. So there's a good lesson in there. So when we talk about like our entrepreneurs, like especially talking about managing cash flow, when it's heavy cash flow, that's when we're stockpiling, investing, trying to build for slim times, right? The down times when it's low and we gotta stockpiling, paying off debt, stacking investments during those heavy times, and that way you can last through those down times when they show up. How does that look for you, especially in the business? We were just talking about this the other day when you're like, man, everybody's on hold. They're not sure what the market's going to do, so they're like, I want to just pause this, all our orders for a minute. What's your default mode for your sales guys, for the team, for the whole business when you're like, we're not getting the orders that we normally or have been getting, which, everybody loves seeing the orders, but like during those times where it's a little more dry.
Yeah. So I kind of talked about it a little bit, right? Focusing on that foundational core business. I mean, you don't want to leave the guys that brought you the dance. And that's step one, I think. You've just got to identify what's the business that you're getting. How do I get more of that?
Okay.
And right now, even if the economy is shaky, I mean, one day you look at the market and it's up, and the next minute it's down, and you don't. It's hard for people to wrap their brain around. Is this truly a bear market or a bull market? When it's tumultuous like that, it's hard to understand what it's really doing.
Yeah.
People are still buying garbage trucks. So let's at least focus on that. I think the other thing too is coverage. We have sales guys all over the nation that are repping our brand. They're selling not just new fuel systems, fuel tank systems that we build here, but they're selling parts to support trucks that are down. Mm-hmm. And these trucks have to run. A little bit different than your pickup truck.
Yeah.
Man, if your pickup truck has to go to the dealership for a week, you can get a ride to work.
Yeah.
Heck, I'd even give you a ride to work. A heavy-duty truck, you don't have that option. Your business relies on that truck. So it's a completely different world when you're talking about the truck business versus the passenger vehicle business, because people are relying on that for their income. They base their projections and everything they do off of having that truck pick up trash every day, for example.
Yeah.
So focusing on service and support and uptime is another giant focus for us.
Okay. That's huge. So is that like practically, is that doubling down? Hey, what needs do you have? Going back to the current clients and you're like, what needs do you have right now? Are we fulfilling everything? Do we need to take care of these trucks, or like trying to bring it to their their attention top of mind sort of way, or what's,
yeah,
how are you addressing
sometimes
that?
it's that, or it's just making sure, the temptation when a market softens, and we're in that right now. I mean, do you start cutting headcount? What do you do to keep the ship afloat during this rough time. You can't cut those things that give your customers service and support. It's the one thing you can't cut. You might be able to get rid of, if your production's kind of low, you might be able to chop down some manufacturing people. We've lost some folks, thankfully, through attrition, and we just haven't had to replace them. But we won't take down our service and support. That's what's going to carry us through.
Yeah, that's a big one. Those current clients are huge, right?
Kind of near and dear to my heart too. Being a mechanic.
Yeah.
And growing up literally on the shop floor, I love that side of the business. I love the support side of the business. All of my guys know we're the group that you call if you don't know what to do, and we will find out a creative solution to your problem. And you just got to focus on doing more of that, taking those opportunities.
Well, so do you think that obviously that has contributed to the growth, that momentum, but like if you could, especially coming to profitability that quick, and then Cummins coming and buying half of the company.
Yep.
Right? That was huge.
That was a massive deal. So about 3.5 years ago, we did a joint venture with Cummins. And so it's a 50-50 joint venture between Rush and Cummins. Not common. You don't see 50-50s a lot.
Right.
Somebody's usually got the controlling side. We happen to be great partners with the Cummins team. And so it worked out really well for us. But that was a big deal. Obviously, in the truck business, Cummins is a household name.
Yeah.
Goes beyond the truck business. I mean, there's in so many different market segments that you see globally. And what Rush is really good is customer touch, how I grew up, service and support, feedback, all that stuff. What Cummins is really good at is making really high quality engines and related products and at high scale. And so Cummins, as a partner now, has been able to help us get the equipment that we need to do our jobs better and more efficiently.
Well, okay. Well, I like that. We'll go even before then, right? Like, what would you credit the growth? You start in momentum up to 2 to 150 employees at that point, or up to this point. Like, what was it? Just ingenuity in creating these custom designs on the trucks, or was it like something more specific, or a couple set of actionables that separated you from anybody else in the market to create it?
I get that question a lot, right? What's your value proposition? Give me your elevator pitch. If you were gonna name your biggest thing, service and support's obviously one of them. We've got now more brick and mortar locations than any other company in our space, so that's huge. Because if you've got a lot of customers that run nationwide,
yeah,
they need to see those dots on the map and make sure that their product's supported. Coming up with products that are different from everyone else's. If you just make the same thing as everybody, then why should somebody do business with you or change from who they're currently doing business with?
Right.
I'm not the low cost leader in the space. I'm just not. We didn't set out to be the low price leader. We're competitive, but I offer more features, advantages, benefits than my competitors, and it's clear. But it's a hard sell when you're not the cheap guy.
Yeah.
Everybody wants the cheap guy. And so you've got to be able to differentiate your product and provide more customer value. And we do a lot of things. You've got technicians working on these CNG natural gas fuel systems. They're high pressure. You want to make sure that technicians are safe. Again, near and dear to my heart as being a technician, former technician. Anything that you can put on the vehicle to make it easier for a driver to operate the vehicle and make it more like what they're familiar with. Those are the kind of things that we've done to set ourselves apart. And that's just a constant effort that never ends.
Yeah. Yeah. No, I see that. That was something I had to learn also, especially at the beginning of the business, when you're taking everything you can.
You're a great case study. You really are.
But it was, you didn't want to, and not that everybody is that, but I didn't want to be the cheapest option, right? Like I wanted to be able to, you love subscribing to premium services. I do. So I wanted to be able to provide that. But that was A big lesson. I wouldn't say it was overnight, but there was a little bit of an acclimation through some mentorship, my own discovery of what that really was, what that value prop was, right? And like how to deliver that and what to make to actually stand out, to fix the problem or bring a powerful solution that really stood out in somebody else's mind.
Well, I think one thing that stands out, you and I have a beer and talk about business, in general. And one thing that always stands out is you're providing more than just, hey, I'm gonna trade some stocks for you, or I'm gonna do the typical stuff that you hear about. You're doing way more than that. I mean, you're giving me advice on what should I do with vehicles, and how should I structure things, and that's a benefit that I don't think you probably get everywhere else. A differentiator. Yeah. Maybe it does cost a little bit more, but you're getting a lot more.
Yeah, no, it's been a huge separator for us.
Yeah.
That was it's been really cool because we signed 6 clients in Q1. And I think I was sharing that with you. That's the most we've signed in the history of ProCap, and so ton of opportunity in that. And so creating plans for all those people right now. And but one thing that was really cool was, and I remember one of the conversations, husband and wife, they were like, well, we're going to go back and ask some questions to these other people that we're interviewing also, but they never brought up any of these questions that you've asked. None of these have even stepped near that. And of course, and they were like, yeah, you're definitely more expensive than they are. And they didn't share how much they were, but they ended up coming on board. And it was like, and it was just kind of funny because so many times, yeah, we do look at price. Everybody does. You want to know how much something costs. But Tony Robbins talks about this, right? Like you buy with emotion, justify with logic. Mm-hmm. And it's easy, I think, to see where I'm like, man, I like this guy. And this is one thing that I think you've been so good at, is because one, you have high character, right? And you probably got a wife to keep you accountable to do that.
She does.
But like, for day one, since we met, it was easy. And I love the guys that get my stupid quotes, right? First time you're like one of them fancy lads, aren't you?
More than anybody I've met.
So I'm like, did you just quote Cabin Boy on me? Because I love stupid humor.
Yep.
And, but you land it, and all of a sudden, like, was like, did we just become best friends? Right. And, but there was like, you're easy to talk to. But you've had to develop that. That's not out the womb sort of thing. Some people are more natural than others, but that was something you developed. And so there's a high character, there's a high likability. I want to talk to you. I trust you. And then of course, seeing how you so there's already an emotional draw, right? And then you come in and deliver something powerful, and you're like, holy cow. And so like there's emotional overlay, but then you have these like logical justifications. You're like, man, well, they did this and they did this and they did this, where it's all mixed into one, where it totally qualifies me paying this price.
Yeah, you have to, believe in your product, right?
Yeah.
You've grown your own product, and had some mentors along the way, I know, but you've been able to think about what are the things that I could bring that is a need in the market.
Yeah.
Same thing with me. I mean, it's helped that I've grown this business up. We literally had a giant slab of concrete, a warehouse that we moved into. I mean, total greenfield, no product designs, nothing, and have grown this into a product based on what our customers told us they wanted.
Yeah.
And figured out a way to deliver that and still remain competitive. So believing in the product, you hear that cliche all the time. It's easy to sell if you believe in what you sell. Well, it's a God's honest truth.
Yeah.
I truly believe my products are the best in the industry. So when I get in front of a customer to talk about them, they can probably detect my passion for my products because I truly do believe in them.
Yeah.
And there's always things you want to improve as well. But, that's probably the thing that I think of most, is just believing in your product. The other thing is getting the opportunity to sit down with a customer and talk about those distinct differences. Mm. I haven't made my business about slamming my competition. I've never done it.
Right.
I've never said, you know what, you should buy mine because the other guys don't make good stuff. I've never done that. I don't think it's professional. I feel like our product should be able to stand on its own and deliver on its own. But if I don't get the opportunity to talk to the guys that really make the rubber meet the road, it's hard to sell it.
Right.
You know, you've got to be able to bring somebody in here and have a serious sit down and have them focused and almost interview them on why do you believe they'd be a fit for your business? Same thing for me.
Yeah.
And if they're just looking at price and this is a commodity item, we're probably not the customers for each other either.
That's huge, because I don't want those people that are going to be judging every 2 seconds, right? What am I paying for this, or this? I'm like, do we have an honest partnership, or is this we're working forward and progressing together on this? And yeah, we're providing a service, but am I going to be having to question everything that I'm doing at every turn?
Well, and it's especially now, it's one thing if it's your company's truck or equipment that you're buying. It's another thing if it's your personal bank account that, you're entrusting somebody
right
to look over that and help me make the best decisions, because I'm not the guy to do that. It's not my business.
Well, dude, so I love this. So kind of pivot. It's from product to person. You have an awesome story, and I don't know if you're up for sharing or how much you'd like to share, but because of what you've developed, you were listen. This is a constant deal that happened to you. There was an attractiveness in your work ethic, your application, and everything that was going on. So obviously, your parents did something awesome raising you, right? And the doctors, and so. What I think is cool is, okay, this guy handed you a card. You need to call this gal. And so I'm like, all right, you'd be a perfect fit for this company, fit in our culture. But then also, so now you're in this incubation or development period. You've done some awesome things along this way and then developed momentum, but then a great opportunity. You became super attractive, not just within the company, but outside of the company. And so this is kind of, cool stuff where like, coaches of the NFL, all of a sudden it's on blast and they start getting recruited. But you had a cool story coming to that with Rush. Could you share any of that
Which
at all?
part?
About getting offered another job?
Oh, I don't want to go down that
road.
Okay.
That's all right.
Maybe a few more years.
Okay. That's okay. Well, it was
it's a cool story.
The gist was like we got offered and Rush took care of you.
Yeah.
Right. And so I think I guess what I liked about it was anytime you've talked about the people in Rush, like your engineer, the other guy you just talked about, your two main guys.
Yeah. I was telling you about Don, my controller.
Yeah.
Just phenomenal talent that we've been able to source and locate and bring in. It's amazing.
Well, guys like that, Rusty, all right, like people who, like any place, you might love your craft, but if you don't love your boss, it makes it real easy to leave or a bad place to work, right? And so you've always been like, man, this guy's awesome, or these people we've worked with awesome. We've had problems in other areas that we've had to take care of, or every place has problems, but you've always been super praising of the people at Rush.
Yeah, we have it's like a brotherhood. It's crazy. You spend as much time as you can with your family and your friends, but man, you spend a lot of time with the people that you work with.
Yeah. Thankfully,
I've met some of my best friends in the entire world at work, and doesn't mean we're not hard on each other. Wow, are we?
Yeah.
It's a work hard, play hard environment. You've been able to witness some of that. Yeah. But it's an incredible group of guys that are all after the same goal. It's hard not to talk about the people in the company.
Yeah.
And so positively. We have more tenure as a management team than you typically would see. They're not typically guys that are brought in from outside and stolen from competitors. It happens sometimes, but the majority of the guys you're going to see there are 20+ year industry vets. And don't think for a second they're not getting looked at by the competition. They are every day, especially in a market like this. You want to bring in studs who know what they're doing, who could teach you some things. you're not teaching them; they're teaching you.
Yeah.
But it's a great group of people.
That's awesome. Well, talk about this. Like, go back, Mike Zimmerman, day one. I mean, you're talking about 22 years.
Yeah, I started off,
You know?
like at Rush.
Yeah.
I started off as a manager trainee. So basically, like, I was learning the different departments. And the truck dealership is like a car dealership. I mean, you got new sales, used sales, body shop, parts and service, leasing, sometimes rental leasing. So I got to work in all those different departments, work my way up. And then at the time, the way the program worked is they give you an assignment. So basically, Rush had just bought this dealer in Florida, brand new dealer group. And so they said, you're moving to Central Florida. So I moved to Haines City, Florida. So got married to Megan. We literally saddled up and moved to Florida. And I'm all excited. So day one, the service manager there who I was going to report to, and I was working basically on the service counter as a service advisor. I mean, like, I'm putting in some time in the trenches doing that job. He brings all the employees into the shop office and he says, all right, guys, I want you to meet Mike Zimmerman. He is corporately trained and he's coming to whip y'all into shape. Swear to God, that's what he said. And so I was like, I had a target on my back from minute one.
Yeah.
So anyway, worked through that though. I worked there for a year. And then Jody, who he and I have become best friends through this. So you've met Jody.
Yeah.
He said, hey, I got an opportunity for you in Houston. I can't pay for you to move, but if you're interested in moving, come on. And so sure enough, we moved to Houston and then just kind of worked my way up through the company in various jobs. But probably the first new business unit that I was involved with starting was called CVS, which is Custom Vehicle Solutions. And so like you were talking about that earlier, where we take a truck that's brand new out of the factory, and trucks don't come ready to work. You got to add all kinds of equipment, whether it's a body that gets put on it or something as simple as decals, a satellite system. There's all kinds of equipment that has to be added onto them.
Mm-hmm.
So we started this little business to basically do that upfitting work in a warehouse, and it was near the Peterbilt factory in Denton. And wow, it's become wildly successful. It went from, oh my gosh, how are we going to fill this place up, to, okay, it's full now. How do we manage this workload? Now, see, I'm so proud of CVS because, I split off to do the natural gas thing exclusively, but CVS is still a partner of mine. I mean, we work with those guys every day, still under the Rush umbrella. Mm. They processed over 10,000 vehicles last year. I mean, this thing has grown from like an idea and, just a way to provide added value to customers, to now all of a sudden it's really quite an operation.
Yeah.
I talked to Ben, their general manager, this morning. They have 1,200 trucks on their lot right now. On the lot right now. That's what a need there is for this equipment. And this is in kind of a trying time.
Yeah.
To be that busy is incredible. But that speaks to the product differentiation. They're not offering everybody just the vanilla, upfit standard package. They're doing from mild to wild there.
See, it sounds like it's kind of similar. I love this because it's like kind of like the Joneses kids. I remember seeing these kids playing in the locker room, but now they've gone through all these different sections of the business.
Oh yeah,
to learn up the whole thing. And it sounds similar. It's basically what you've done, had a willingness to learn everything, but you've always had a curiosity. From what I've seen, you've always had a curiosity to just see how everything operates, but a willingness to learn. So you end up learning up so much of the business, that so much of a sponge that you could rattle off so much information.
Yeah, I mean, you think after 20 years, you get pretty good at what you're doing, which is true. But there's not a day that goes by when I'm not learning a skill or a lesson. What I should have done differently. It's a new customer and a new business that I'm not familiar with. It's happening all around us all the time.
Is that would that be the main lesson, or is there a main lesson that you would tell you at day one of this thing, starting off, not knowing you're going to be here today, right? But would that be the main thing if you're going to go back to him day one and say, hey, give him a piece of advice? What would be that advice be to make sure?
That's a great question. I would say maybe stick with it.
Okay.
Sometimes when it gets rough, you just think, man, I don't know, maybe this is just not what I was cut out to do. And that's always going to happen. No matter what you end up doing, you're going to have highs and lows. And I think just having the what I call testicular fortitude to stick with it, and just keep your head down and work, and know that you're going to be able to power through it. That's probably something, because I've stuck with it, and it was really a good thing that I ultimately did. I don't think in this day and age a lot of people go to work for a company and say that's a company I'm probably going to retire from.
It's true.
They think I'm going to probably be here a couple of years and I'll be moving up to my next deal.
Yeah.
And I've been fortunate enough to be one of those guys that, I had to do some serious time in the trenches and, work in some not as sexy jobs, but it's all paid off really well.
That's awesome. How does that apply to the family? So like, I love to ask these questions kind of towards the end. Like, I love advice, right? That's the whole purpose of the show, is wisdom, and applying these principles to your business as an entrepreneur, to your wealth journey. But the biggest place to win is to your family.
Oh,
right?
Without a doubt. I will tell you, we made a really hard decision. Megan was a nurse, which was great when we were moving around doing various jobs in different parts of the country, because she could get a job anywhere as a nurse. But we had to make a hard decision. We had 2 young kids, and did it really make sense to have, kids in daycare when she could actually be like a better person taking care of them? And the hard decision was, man, she was making some decent money. So what do you do? Well, we made the decision to have her stay at home and raise the boys. And I wouldn't be able to do what I do today if I didn't have her to be my rock at the house. If I have to jump a plane or I have to travel, go see a customer, stay late, that just happens. And so if I didn't have her where I could rely on her to take care of everything, there's no possible way I could be able to do what I did. So I think family is everything. You do this for your family, right?
Yeah. I loved it, man. That was one of the first things we got talking, and I think I met Megan first. And
no, I remember. You met me first. You know
why?
Me?
Why?
Because I drove up in my driveway and I said, I bet you that's our new neighbor next door. And she goes, we had been moving stuff, and she was not wanting to meet. She goes, I don't want to meet somebody today. And I said, well, I'm getting out to meet him. And so that's when we met. But you probably may have talked to her first.
Well, I think it was funny because it was good right away, right? But what I remember about her, as we got into these conversations at the very beginning, she took ownership. And man, if that's not okay, we talk about that in an organization. Like, take ownership of where you're at, your role. And if that doesn't apply to your family, that big time applies to your family. She took ownership of that role. She's like, I'm sergeant in the house. And one of my favorite lines from her was she talking about Joe and Dave. Is she was like, I'm making husbands. She's like, I'm making weak little boys. She goes, I'm making husbands here. And that always stood to me, because that communicates so much more, because it's not like I'm creating this independent, ferocious person or strong person. You want the strong person, but you're like, I'm creating somebody, or we're working to create somebody that can actually work with somebody else.
Yeah, it's cool how that's matriculated, right? So now Joe's 19. Yeah. He's going to LSU. He's got a full class load, but he's also working 40 hours a week at a car wash, and become pretty successful doing that job.
Yeah.
And it's a testament, I'm sure he sees what I do at work, and they always learn by watching what you do, but she's been a huge part of that.
It's awesome. I love it, man. I appreciate you coming on.
Oh, thanks for having me.
You're a stud. Your whole family's a stud.
We could do this every evening in the driveway.
Yeah, I know. Just put you in front of a mic now for it.
That's right.
But I appreciate you coming on, man. You're the best.
Thank you, Cory.